What if AI is not fake and still becomes a bubble? That sounds impossible, but it has happened before. Railroads were real. The internet was real. Cheap shared bikes were useful. Streaming video was a real business. And still, around each of them, people built stories so large that the numbers could not survive. The pattern is always the same. A new technology appears. Everyone sees the future. Then investors, founders, and executives start pricing that future as if it has already arrived. The technology can be true. The bubble can be true too. AI is useful. Anyone who has used a good model to write code, summarize documents, translate, search, design, analyze, or automate boring work already knows that. The question is different. The question is whether the money around AI has started to behave like money has behaved in every great technology fever before it, because history has a cruel habit. It does not repeat the same names. It repeats the same human weakness. Every bubble wears a different costume. One century it wears a top hat and sells railway shares. Another century it wears a hoodie and says page views matter more than profit. Another time, it paints a bicycle yellow, drops it on a sidewalk, and calls it the future of cities. Today, it may be wearing a data center badge and ordering another warehouse full of GPUs, the fear of missing out, the desire to believe that this time is different, the pressure on executives to show they are not falling behind, the pressure on investors to buy before everyone else gets rich, the pressure on companies to turn a future story into today's stock price. That is where bubbles begin, not with lies, with hope, with a real invention, with something useful enough to make smart people suspend disbelief. The first mirror is Britain. In the 1840s, the railway was not a scam, changed the world. Before railways, moving people and goods across land was slow, expensive, and limited by roads, horses, weather, and distance. Then trains arrived. Suddenly, cities could be connected, factories could ship faster, food could travel farther, people could move in ways their grandparents could barely imagine. The technology was obvious. That was the problem, because once everyone could see that railways were the future, everyone wanted to own a piece of that future. People were not only buying tracks, they were buying a ticket to a world that had not fully arrived yet. And tickets to the future are always easy to sell. In the Railway Mania, money rushed into new railway companies. Shares rose. The rising shares attracted more buyers. More buyers made the shares rise again. And soon, the public was no longer asking which railway lines made economic sense. They were asking which railway shares would go up next. At the peak, Parliament authorized hundreds of new railway projects. Thousands of miles of new track were proposed. Many routes were duplicated. Many companies were badly planned. Some were never going to be built. And yet the money kept coming. Why? Because the story was true. The world really did need railways. But that did not mean every railway company was worth its price. That is the first lesson for AI. A technology can be destiny and still be a terrible investment. At the wrong valuation, with the wrong cost structure, at the wrong point in the cycle. When the railway bubble broke, investors were ruined. Families lost savings. Weak companies failed. Stronger companies bought assets cheaply, and the tracks remained. The crash did not erase the railway. It only corrected the fantasy that every railway dream deserved unlimited capital. Now move forward. More than a century, the internet arrives. Again, the technology is real. More real than most people understood. It would change shopping, advertising, music, news, maps, banking, dating, work, politics, almost everything. But in the late 1990s, the market did something dangerous. It saw the correct future, and then paid the wrong price for it. A website with no profit could be treated like an oil field. A company with no working business model could become a public market celebrity. If the logo looked modern enough and the story sounded large enough, people could forget to ask where the cash would actually come from. Companies with no profits became valuable because they had traffic. Companies with weak business models became valuable because they had the word internet attached to them. Founders promised scale. Investors promised patience. Analysts created new measurements because old measurements, like earnings, made the story look too ugly. The phrase was not profit. It was eyeballs. Users first. Revenue later. Profit someday. That logic did not sound insane at the time, because parts of it were right. Amazon did need scale. Google did become one of the most important companies. In history, the internet did become the economic layer under modern life, but the bubble did not care that the broad idea was right, punished the gap between future possibility and present reality. On March 10, 2000, the Nasdaq reached its peak. Then the air began to leave. By 2002, the Nasdaq had fallen roughly 78%. From that peak, many companies disappeared. Pets.com became a punchline. Webvan collapsed. Global Crossing failed. WorldCom became one of the great accounting scandals of the era. And still, the internet survived. That is the second lesson for AI. The crash is not always the death of the technology. Sometimes the crash is how the technology finally becomes affordable, disciplined, and useful. The first wave pays too much to build the future. The second wave buys the future at a discount. Then there is a smaller, stranger mirror. China's bike-sharing boom. This one matters because it looked so practical. It was not some abstract financial product. The need was visible. Cities were crowded. Short trips were annoying. Cars were expensive. Public transport did not always cover the last mile. A cheap bike, unlocked by phone, available almost anywhere, made obvious sense. People used it. The product solved a real problem. And still, the business model broke. Venture money flooded in. Companies covered cities with bicycles. They competed with low prices, free rides, deposits, subsidies, and endless expansion. The more bikes on the street, the stronger the company looked. But every bike was also a cost. It had to be built, moved, repaired, cleaned, recovered, replaced. It had to survive rain, theft, bad parking, broken locks, flat tires, angry pedestrians, and the strange creativity of people who treat public property like a puzzle they want to destroy. Some were stolen, some were damaged, some were dumped in piles that looked like graveyards. For venture capital, the demand was real, but real demand did not fix broken unit economics. That phrase matters. Unit economics. It means the business must eventually make sense. One use, one customer, one transaction at a time. If every ride loses money, volume does not save you. It only makes the loss larger. That is the third lesson for AI. Millions of people using a product does not automatically prove that the product is a good business. If every query, every image, every agent task, and every enterprise workflow requires expensive compute, then the question is not only, do people want it? The question is, can the provider deliver it at a price people will pay and still make money? That is where AI begins to look less like software and more like infrastructure. Traditional software had magical economics. Build once, sell many times. The cost of serving one more user could be very low. AI is different. Every answer consumes compute. The cloud sounds weightless, but the cloud is not a cloud. It is someone else's building, full of hot chips, metal racks, electricity contracts, cooling systems, and accountants waiting quietly for depreciation to show up. Every model race requires chips. Every bigger model requires data centers, power, cooling, networking, engineers, and time. The product can feel like software, but the cost structure can feel like railroads, factories, or airlines. High fixed cost, fast depreciation, competitive pricing pressure. That combination can be brutal. The fourth mirror is LeEco. It is not a perfect comparison. No historical case ever is. But LeEco shows something important about human nature. Inside a capital story, LeEco did not sell a small dream. It sold an ecosystem. Ecosystem is a beautiful word. It can make debt sound like strategy. It can make complexity sound like destiny. It can make a company look less like a business and more like a universe that investors are afraid to miss. Video, content, phones, televisions, cars, platforms, membership, hardware, software, the future, all connected. For a while, the story was powerful. It sounded like the kind of company that could become everything at once. And when a story is that large, numbers can begin to serve the story instead of challenging it. Costs can be pushed into the future. Assets can be treated with optimism. Growth can hide cash pressure. Investors can focus on the next vision instead of the current balance sheet. Later, LeEco's crisis exposed debt, liquidity problems, and regulatory punishment. Jia Yuding left China, filed for personal bankruptcy in the United States, and Chinese regulators later punished LuTV and Jia over years of financial fraud. The point is not that today's AI companies are LeEco. That would be too simple. The point is that grand future stories create a temptation. When the story is big enough, people want the accounting to help them believe. That brings us to the uncomfortable part of today's AI boom. Big tech is spending like the future must be bought immediately, not rented, not tested, bought in concrete, steel, chips, power, and cooling. Goldman Sachs warned in 2024 that generative AI could drive roughly $1 trillion of capital spending in coming years, from chips and data centers to infrastructure and power. Sequoia's David Kahn asked what he called AI's $600 billion question. Where is all the revenue that justifies the infrastructure build-out? That question has not gone away. It has become sharper because the spending is not theoretical anymore. It is showing up in data centers, in power demand, in chip orders, in cloud budgets, in depreciation schedules, in investor calls, in hiring plans, and sometimes in layoffs. The optimistic answer is simple. AI is the next platform. Whoever owns the compute owns the future. Today looks expensive only because the opportunity is so large. That answer might be right, but history says the optimistic answer is always available during a bubble. In the railway boom, the answer was national transportation. In the dot-com boom, the answer was the digital economy. In bike sharing, the answer was urban mobility. In LeEco, the answer was ecosystem. All of them had a true part. The danger was in the leap from truth to unlimited valuation. AI has several pressure points. The first is revenue. Who is paying? How much? For how long? And at what margin? Consumers like AI, but consumers are trained to expect cheap apps. Enterprises are interested in AI, but interest is not the same as measurable profit. Many companies can run pilots. Far fewer can rebuild workflows, clean data, change incentives, train staff, manage risk, and turn AI into recurring savings. That is why enterprise adoption can look impressive in headlines and disappointing in financial results. The second pressure point is pricing power. If AI models become similar and open source models keep improving, customers will not want to pay premium prices forever. Compute may become a commodity. If that happens, the companies that spent the most may discover that they built a highway, but cannot charge enough tolls. The third pressure point is depreciation. A data center is not a magic cloud. It is a physical thing. Servers age, chips are replaced, power systems cost money, cooling costs money, buildings take years. Accounting spreads those costs over useful lives. That is normal. But in an AI race, the useful life of hardware is a serious debate. If chips remain useful for many years, the spending may be rational. If newer chips make older fleets economically weaker, faster than expected, then profits today may be hiding costs that arrive tomorrow. That does not mean fraud. It means timing matters. It means earnings can look better before the full bill reaches the income statement. The fourth pressure point is competition. In a gold rush, the first winners are often the shovel sellers. In AI, that means chip makers, data center builders, power providers, and cloud infrastructure. But if too many buyers build too much capacity, the shovel sellers can win, while their customers struggle to earn back the spending. This is one of the oldest patterns. In technology bubbles, the people selling the dream's equipment make money before the dream's business model is proven. So is AI a bubble? The honest answer is, parts of it almost certainly are. The harder answer is, that does not tell us exactly when it breaks. Bubbles are not clocks. They are pressure systems. They are boilers. For a long time, they make impressive noise. They heat the room. They look powerful. Then one valve fails, and everyone suddenly notices how much pressure was inside. They break when enough pressure points line up at once. For AI, watch 5 signals. First, AI capital spending keeps rising, faster than AI revenue. Second, companies begin explaining why depreciation, power, cloud costs, and infrastructure expenses will pressure future margins. Third, AI product prices fall because customers can switch models or use open source alternatives. Fourth, enterprise pilots fail to scale into hard profit and loss impact. Fifth, investors start separating AI suppliers from AI spenders when the market loves the chip sellers, but grows suspicious of the companies buying the chips. That is a warning light. It does not mean the crash is tomorrow, but it means the story is changing. If forced to think in windows, the highest risk period is likely not one single date. It is the next 1 to 3 years, after the biggest capex wave, when investors can finally compare the money spent with the revenue actually produced. That is when the railway investor discovered which routes were useful, That is when the dot-com investor discovered which websites were businesses. That is when the bike-sharing investor discovered that a used bike on a sidewalk is not the same as profit. That is when AI investors may discover which products are essential and which were only demos with invoices attached. But the most important part of the story comes after the break, because if AI is like the railway and the internet, the real opportunity may appear after the first bubble loses air. After the Railway Mania, tracks remained. After the dot-com crash, the internet remained. After telecom overbuild, fiber became cheaper. After failed platform dreams, the useful pieces were absorbed by more disciplined companies. If the AI bubble breaks, the same thing may happen. Compute could become cheaper. Talent could move from hype companies to practical companies. Customers could stop paying for magic and start paying for measurable results. The winners may not be the loudest model labs. They may be the companies that use AI to remove a real cost inside a real workflow: insurance claims, legal review, medical paperwork, customer support, accounting, manufacturing inspection, logistics, code maintenance, compliance, research, sales operations. Not AI as a slogan, AI as a tool that touches the income statement. The opportunity after the bubble is usually boring. That is why it is real. The boring company does not promise to replace civilization, promises to cut invoice processing time by 40%. It does not say every employee will have a personal superintelligence. It says one department can stop hiring 5 contractors to copy information between systems. It does not need everyone to believe. It only needs one customer to save more money than the product costs. That is where the next generation of AI companies may be built, not on the promise that intelligence will become infinite, but on the proof that one painful job can be done cheaper, faster, or better. The final lesson is simple. Technology changes. Human nature does not. Every generation believes it is more rational than the last one. Every generation says the old rules no longer apply. Every generation finds a new word for the same old feeling: railroad, internet, sharing economy, ecosystem, artificial intelligence. The words change. The emotion underneath stays the same: greed, fear, status, pressure, denial, hope. That is why bubbles keep happening. Not because the technology is fake, but because the technology is real enough to make people believe that price no longer matters. AI may transform the world, probably will, but if history is any guide, the transformation will not save everyone who paid too much to stand near it. The future can be real and still arrive after the bubble has already broken.